Hey Realtors, it's Austin Smallwood with the SCR Legal Hotline to walk you through some minor changes that are going to be upcoming to SCR Form 300 and 310. Like all the other form changes that are forthcoming, these will take effect on September 12th. I encourage you to watch the rest of this video as well as all of the other videos about the form changes that will take effect at that time, as well as attend our webinar on August 31st at noon where we will go over these in more detail. So the changes that are going to be made to Form 300 and 310 are only to paragraph 6 and 22. And they're really addressing those transaction costs and assessments. So we're getting a lot of calls on the hotline about HOA assessments, special assessments. When does that fall into transaction cost? When does that apply to paragraph 22? So this change is really to try to simplify that discussion. So currently, transaction costs, paragraph 6 of those forms, is really 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph talks about what are buyer costs and seller costs. The second paragraph talks about those additional items that you have to make a checkbox of, is it a buyer cost or a seller cost? And then the third paragraph is where we talk about what the seller will pay, how much transaction costs the seller will pay. So what we've done is to try to simplify that is broken paragraph 6 into A and B. And so A is what you already currently have with a little bit more explanation. So what we did is we broke out buyer and seller cost, and we're going to make those separate paragraphs so it's very clear what is the buyer's transaction cost, what are the seller's transaction costs. Number 3 is what is currently your second paragraph, and that is saying, hey, the following costs are in addition to those that are in 1 and 2, and they'll either be a buyer cost or a seller cost, and if you leave that blank, they automatically become a seller cost. And so right now we have these items listed out in just a series via comma, so we broke it out instead with A, B, and C, and added some explanation of what exactly it costs to obtain information from or pertain to an HOA is. For example, if there's a document or a printing fee the HOA charges for printing out any of their documents, that's what would fall under A. B are any private or public transfer fees, and C is any cost similar to a transfer fee. It's just not labeled a transfer fee. And then 4 is what we currently have as that last paragraph. This is if the seller is going to pay any transaction costs, what will that amount be? And then put a disclaimer in there in the bottom. The HOA dues and assessments are not considered transaction costs and are addressed by the closing attorney as needed in paragraph 22. A transfer fee, or in that case, any cost similar to transfer fee, is a non-recurring fee that is being assessed solely because of a transfer in property ownership. If it's a fee that would have existed whether or not the property is being sold, that's not a transfer fee. A transfer fee is simply a fee that is being assessed because the property is changing hands. So, and now we've also added in B to try to handle HOA assessments. So again, this is going to be talk about special, non-recurring, unexpected, non-budget, etc. This does not apply to HOA dues or membership fees. So option 1 is what we currently have in our contract. This is just the default currently, but we're now going to give 2 options. The first option is, hey, any special assessments approved prior to closing are the responsibility of the seller. Any were approved after closing are the responsibility of the buyer. Any balance that's left on a special assessment approved prior to closing is going to be paid by the seller at closing. Essentially, whoever owns the property at the time the special assessment is approved is the one who should be responsible for it because they're the ones who voted for it or voted for the board. So that's option 1. Option 2 is to sort of handle a situation in which a board approves a special assessment, this year, but they approve a large special assessment and they tell the residents, hey, you can pay this over a 5-year span. So, we have a $100,000 special assessment. We're going to let you pay this in 5 $20,000 increments over a 5-year period. And so this is where option 2 would help with that situation. It's essentially saying the sellers can be responsible for any portion of that special assessment approved prior to closing and that is due within the calendar year of closing. So again, in that 5-year stretch where we had $20,000 assessment over a 5-year period, the seller will be responsible for that first $20,000, and then any remaining special assessment payments and subsequent years are the responsibility of the buyer. Essentially, whoever is reaping the benefits of it, whoever's living in the home at the time that bill goes out, would be the one who's responsible for it, and we're going to allow the closing attorney to make the appropriate adjustments as needed. And then, of course, anything that's approved after closing is going to be the responsibility of the buyer. So option 1 is whoever was the owner at the time that it was approved, regardless of the payment structure, is responsible for it. Option 2 is the seller is essentially responsible for any amount that is due within the calendar year. Anything after that, the buyer is responsible for. So those are the changes we made to paragraph 6. And then in paragraph 22, what we did is we removed the special assessment language that we currently have because we've now moved that up. And we're also giving a little explanation on some of the other items. You'll see on here on D, we've been getting a lot of calls about insurance. And is an insurance assessment, is that handled under special assessments? Is that handled through HOA assessments, or is that insurance? So trying to provide some clarity there, that when we talk about the closing attorney can adjust and prorate for insurance, that is including any non-special assessments assessed due to increased premiums. So if it says a special assessment, if it's a special insurance assessment, that would apply under special assessments in paragraph 6. If it's just an insurance premium increase, then that would be handled in paragraph 22. And then clarify that any assessments we see here are non-special assessments. So special assessments are handled in B, in paragraph 6. Any other HOA assessment, including those for insurance, are handled in paragraph 22. So if you have any questions on this change or any of the other forms changes, I encourage you to give us a call on the legal hotline or email me at austin@screaltors.org. Thank you.